Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with AmericanScouser.com. I am the host, Tim, and as always, with my cup of Joe. We're doing the green Kermit again this morning. And with us, as always, is Trevor. Trevor, what's happening this morning, man?
Not too much. And just a quick disclaimer, if you hear a buzzing in the background, you do not have a brain tumor. The people across the street from me are having their lawn mowed at 9 o'clock in the morning. So yes, that is, if you hear that at all, you're fine.
9 o'clock is not bad. 9 o'clock is doable. Yeah. I think anything 8 is kind of pushing it. I think our local thing is 8 a.m. over here. I love the people who start at 8:01 or start revving up the stuff at like 7:45 and then actually start mowing at 8. Those are the classics. So I figured, to this morning, we'll kind of like take a look at the scores yesterday and then can go back to the headlines. Not a lot, and most of them are actually like score related. So anything from yesterday that sticks out at you? I know when I was looking at the games and seeing like what should I watch, I'll be honest, a lot of them look like, well, that's going to be a blowout. That's not going to be any competition. So I was thinking of doing the Chelsea-Milan thing. Then I did the whole Golazo thing, which is another thing by itself. But what shocks you from yesterday?
Well, there wasn't really anything in the way, like you said, in terms of shocks. There was a lot of games that you thought could potentially be close, and there were some that you just kind of knew offhand were going to be kind of messy affairs for the lesser team in the contest. I didn't really have any big takeaways from it outside of good players playing well, a couple guys getting back into form, and then there was a couple injuries. But other than that, everything kind of went the way it was supposed to in this day of Champions League action.
I think so, right? For the most part, I don't think you look at any of the scores. And I mean, Dortmund, maybe more than Dortmund beating Sevilla, it was more like the way they beat Sevilla was probably shocking. But Sevilla is in kind of shambles. Alan is with us this morning. Good morning, Alan. And then I know Benfica was able to snatch up points out of PSG. But aside
that was
from
probably
that,
the most surprising.
Right? I mean, even then, it's not an easy place to, play when you go away to Portugal. I know we've had success, whenever we play Porto and stuff like that, but it's not always like an easy place. And Madrid probably had more trouble than they should. But when you look at the game overall, and honestly, like Shakhtar could have gotten the tie a couple of times. They had some really good chances towards the end of the game, but that was mostly because Real got into this protect the lead mode. But Chelsea Milan, I mean, like I say earlier in the day, I was like, this is the game that's probably going to be the closest and good competition kind of thing. You look at the matchups, it really was not. I would say Juventus against Haifa was like a lot closer than freaking Chelsea against AC Milan. What do you make of that? Like Italian clubs, for the most part, really struggling in Europe. I mean, I think Napoli is probably an exception, but what do you make of some of these guys like really struggling?
Well, I think it's more of just like a case-by-case basis. There's plenty of teams that are doing well domestically that are going out into Europe and just getting smacked. And the Italian teams, at least, Inter won yesterday. Not yesterday, 2 days ago at this point. Everything blends together. I apologize. And Napoli doing what they did. Juve taking care of business with kind of the guys that they were, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the Milan thing, I just don't understand why they struggle so mightily in the Champions League. They've just revamped that team. They've done a lot of good things with their youth and bringing guys up and just not making it a system where now people are getting playing time based on reputation. It's more of a meritocracy. And now I don't understand why they can't just make it work in Europe. It's weird because I have a lot of people that I grew up with are like Milan fans, and they just can't figure it out. You just watch them play in the league, and it's two different teams. Really,
right? It's weird. Like they just totally change. I mean, Juventus is I know Juventus looks like a team that if you go at them, they're always in trouble. I mean, they're like have a really tough time defending, and teams that are going at them when they're on the front foot, it's usually easier. I know they want to hit you on the counter, and they had a lot of chances yesterday to hit on the counter, just could not convert, or I mean, it's you look at the score is 3-1, and you're like, oh, it was like but it was not. It didn't watch like a 3-1 game as you looked at the game throughout. I mean, they did not. I mean, they were being booed when they were scoring. When they scored the goal, the fans were in the process of like booing. So, and then those boos turned to cheers and stuff. And that shows how fickle freaking home fans can be, by the way. If I was a player, I would give the freaking like finger because, like as you were being booed, you got scored. And, it's just, but yeah, not a lot of shocks. I mean, City freaking Holland is going to be a problem, man. This guy is like, I mean, the thing is not only he's clinical, like with the chances he gets, but the dude knows where to be. Like, like he scores some goals based on just like he had like a rebound goal yesterday and stuff like that. Those look like, oh, they're easy goals. I mean, he just tapped it in, but he kind of has that, sometimes you have like some goal scorers. They might not be fast. They might not be this. They just have a sense and they know where to be. They're going to be there in the right place in the right time. But he kind of has it freaking all. What the hell?
Yeah. It's frustrating because he has all of those big technical elements that, like Alan said yesterday towards the end of our broadcast, said that Holland just always is looking over his shoulder, seeing where the ball is and where he needs to go. And that's something that he was hoping that Nunez would do more often. And I think he's going to get more opportunities if we stick with the 4-2-3-1 we talked about ad nauseum yesterday. He'll get more opportunities to do that. But the thing that Holland is annoying is that he has all of the technical ability and he's just that poacher. It's usually one or the other. Guys either just score glorious goals all the time and have that knack for getting into spaces and being able to find those geometric angles to get the ball into the net, or the guys that are just always in the right spot to tap it in from 1 yard 3 times and get hat tricks that way. He does both, and it's poor Copenhagen yesterday. They were putting like 3 guys on him, and he was just jumping over them. And then they tried to like almost do some basketball, put a guy to like front him to like not even let him get the ball.
Don't let him post
a guy behind him, so they can't. And City still found a way to like get the ball to him, and then he just would lay it off and get it right back and score it again. And you're like, gee. So teams can do everything right, and they can employ all of the most sound strategies possible, and he still fucking scores. It's freaking so
scary,
good
man.
for them, but it's so bad for everybody else.
Exactly, and that's what my concern is really. Alex is this again this morning. Alex, what's happening, man? But and that's the thing that's scary is because the team is City. So it's not like, if you have a team that's kind of like mediocre overall and you have, like one guy to focus on, you can focus on that guy and leave everybody else. I mean, bear in mind, they kind of like they had a lot of rotation knowing it was Copenhagen and they got a game again this weekend. So it was a lot of rotation at the City side. And despite that, they made it look easy. Cosgrove is up. Well, I guess he's not up. He's way ahead of us in hours. But he says, can't wait till he's at Real Madrid in 2 years. I'm glad he brought that up because we were going to talk about that headline where Pep insists that there is no such clause for Real Madrid to get him at a cheaper rate. But, I mean, either freaking way, if Real says, well, we really need to go get him, they're going to spend the money. And they're not going to be, shy on the wages. It's freaking Real. They're not going to be shy on the wages and stuff anyway. If you look into your crystal ball over here in like 2-3 years, is this guy in Real?
Like you said, if Madrid come calling, nobody says no. I think Mbappe is the only guy that's ever said no and
I
taken
mean, they
money
gave him
somewhere
the
else
club,
because
though. I mean,
PSG basically gave him like, I don't know, like a piece of Qatar, I guess. I don't. Maybe there has to be just so much that for you to turn down a move to your dream club to stay at PSG, who have won dick all in his entirety of being there. I don't know.
yeah, Cosgrove says Pep can never admit it. Makes your club look small time, and I mean it is like small time with a lot of money, and therefore now a lot of success as well. And yeah, I mean I would think, and it's how freaking good is this kid that he's like, you know what? I'll go to the Premier League first, dominate for like a couple of years, and then I'll just go to then I'll go to Real kind
Yeah.
of thing. It's like, who the hell does that? But yeah, I mean, he's turned out to be, I think it's one of those things too, though, by the way, when he scored that goal, and you could see like even his teammates are like, this is freaking ridiculous. This guy's scoring all the time. It's kind of reminded me of the good old times, Mo's form, when everything he touched was turning into gold. And he had so much confidence. He was hitting everything one time and just like nailing it. And we were even in awe. So do you think this is something of like a form where he's just at the peak right now? Like, this is not the regular Holland we're seeing. He's just at the peak of like what like where Mo was at, and he will eventually come down to like normal levels. Or because I don't see Pep doing what we did to Mo and take him and park him by the sideline. So he's going to be in the middle, still in the box. But do you think like he will come down to earth? Because it just feels like way over the top right now.
Yeah, and it is way over the top right now. But my thing with Holland is the only thing that's ever been able to stop him is his body, and because when he was at Salzburg and when he was at Dortmund, he just scored goals in the Champions League in bulk, and he did the same domestically. And the only things that wiped out him scoring like 10 goals in like 5 games is then he'd get hurt for a month. And then he'd come back and he'd be a little rusty, and the managers would use kid gloves on him and play him like half an hour. He'd score in that half an hour, but then they'd yank him to make sure that he didn't get hurt again. That's the only thing that I see stopping him. And you never want to like wish ill or injury upon somebody, but it's something where that's the only thing that's going to, I think, take him down, is if Pep sees this as a gravy train that will never end and just keeps running him out there and never gives him any time to kind of recuperate. And then one of those big injuries comes, and then we're back to seeing Jack Grealish as a false 9, which I don't know.
I think that's the league's hope. Unfortunately right now, right? You look at City and you're like, that's the only thing that you can get going. I mean, it's, Cosgrove says it'd be nice if a defender gives him a boot instead of giving him 5 yards in the area every game. I think the fear is he's freaking fast as well. It's not like you can just put a body on him. And, some players you can kind of body up and kind of like shift them out of their timing and you're in good shape. But the dude is fast as well, so he can make that run. So it's a really, it's a really tough type of player to defend. Let's just hope one day we can get Nunez close to that, because I feel the same thing with Nunez, but he's not as dominant as Holland physically yet, even though he has the tools. I mean, you could see when watching this last game, I feel with Nunez, part of it is like trying too hard. It almost feels like Holland has passed that, where he has enough confidence to, I remember way back talking about this when, like Liverpool fans were making I thought too big of a deal of, Nunez scoring and, Holland missing the sitter and stuff. And I always like with banter and shit like that. But you kind of knew that Holland was coming here with built-in confidence. So nothing was going to really take that away from him, because he had so much, I don't know, like the way he carries himself, the way he believes in himself. You knew nothing was going to shake him a lot. Whereas Nunez was more about trying to prove himself. And I think the biggest thing going against Nunez, apart from the price tag, is the fact that he came along with Holland. So now it's somebody, and it's freaking with his form. There's no way you're going to compare your form to freaking Holland's and be happy, satisfied, and stuff. So some of the things I thought he did in the game that were negative were more like because he was like kind of forcing it, trying to make something happen and stuff. And that's what, scares me. And Kazi is right. I mean, Pep has changed everything that kind of made Holland. We have not, or have we, with the 4-2-3-1 or whatever? I think that's something that will, honestly, forget Darwin. I think that's something that helps us have our midfield and defense. It's just a question of, is it just Rangers? When we only set loose 4 people at other teams, are they going to be able to open it up the way we kind of were able to open up Rangers? But we'll get to a lot of that tomorrow. One of the headlines, obviously, from the games yesterday is Kyle Walker getting injured, and then he has surgery. And then I did not see the extent of Fofana's injury, because I think those were probably the 2 bigger stories. I mean, Kyle's injury and the surgery obviously puts his World Cup thing a little bit in danger. So does it open the door for Trent again? And we're going to go through this whole conversation over, you think?
Who knows? Every place goes like, this gives Trent an inroad back into the team. I go, does he even really want to deal with Southgate's crap at this point anymore? I'm sure he will if he gets called in and just go in and be a good soldier in that regard. But you've already just been dragged through the streets by your international manager saying that like Kieran Trippier is better than you, and that like everybody else that was in the team does the things you do better, and you're just sitting there like, okay, I guess I'll just go fuck myself then. I don't know what you want me to do. But now a guy gets hurt, and then all of a sudden it's oh, now you have an opportunity to come prove yourself. Yeah.
Let's see what you got, kid.
That guy being put into the World 11 has to prove himself over guys that like don't even start every week for their own team a lot of times. And you're like, is this something that is even worth the hassle? I get it. Pride for your country, wanting to go to a World Cup. But it's something where the player just has to have his own, I don't want to say dignity, but just kind of like a level where you just go, it's not worth my time to prove myself to you in the hardest of air quotes possible, when I've been doing this and excelling at it for the better part of 4 years now. And just because you want a guy that will sit there and make sure Maguire doesn't crap his pants every 7 seconds in defense, and I try to do something a bit more pragmatic and make us a better team, you're just sitting there going, no, you sit there, you take free kicks when I tell you, and you just don't move.
See, I wonder, so by the way, if this new formation will kind of show that if played in a more traditional role of a back, I mean, look, I am not going to make up excuses for Trent's poor defending at times. I realize, and I'm not talking anything about the positioning part of things, like why isn't Trent there? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when he's freaking back there, his defending sometimes has been poor. And if you're denying that, you're just denying everything. I mean, it is. You go watch the goals, and there are a lot of times where his lack of hustle is what causes the situation afterwards, or at least it can't help get rid of it. And there's like goal after goal after goal. We can sit here and watch it every morning. But along the same lines, I think if he played more in the tradition, I think this in some ways helps Trent as well. Same thing I was saying about like Hando yesterday, having the field in front of him for somebody who has so like great passing and vision. I think that always helps, see the whole field and be able to, direct and move the ball a lot better. I mean, he had a lot of through balls that were like excellent balls to like Mo and stuff, for example, against Rangers. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And I wonder, playing in more traditional role will kind of maybe show Southgate over there that he is actually going to be, he can play that role. He doesn't have to be like, it's not like, Trent is like, I'm out of here. And then he just like runs forward. I mean, that was part of the system. That was what was asked of him. Billy Hogan admits they have plans in place if they fail to finish in the top 4 following their push start to the season. I know why he's admitting that. Like, I don't know why it's considered like admitting. It should be like proud of that concept probably, but and says they can't automatically count on Champions League qualification. That's like a scary quote in multiple ways. But, if you talk about future plans and transfer and stuff like that, I just feel we are basically going to be outspent and financially outed out of this whole Bellingham deal. Because every time this kid hits the field, and I mean, first of all, his form is ridiculous as well. I just cannot see us spending 120 on this kid. Just don't.
Yeah,
says Billy Hogan's planned Milner contract extension.
Yeah, we're going to extend Milner so he can be part of the swap deal for Bellingham. We're going to send Milner, Keita, Arthur, who can't even get on the bench against Rangers. We're just going to send them every midfielder that we have no use for, and they're going to just send Bellingham back. That's how it works, right?
That makes sense. Yeah, you guys can combine all these 5 guys.
Send us their best player back. Perfect.
Yeah, here's 5 guys. If you combine them, they'll get you 30 games all year. So there you go. It's an even swap. I mean, I feel like with the number that they'll be able to ask and they'll be able to get, more importantly, I just feel like we're going to get outpriced. That's my gut feeling right now. What do you think?
And especially now with Madrid lurking, I just don't think that's one of those things where you're at the auction house and you have a set price in mind with what you're bidding on, and then you're like, oh no, okay, we're getting to that point, and this guy is just throwing his sign up every single time the auctioneer goes off, and you tell yourself, you know what? I've been good with my finances. I can go a little bit over what I set, and then the other person just goes 15 million above what you put as your. I'm being a good boy, just going that little bit extra, and they still blow you out of the water. And
yeah. I mean, 120 million is, and yeah, I've heard like 120, 115, 125. So 120 sounds like a good average there. I mean, that's what made it shocking to me that we spent so much money on Nunez, to be honest with you, because it wasn't it. And I know why. I mean, obviously Bellingham probably was not available. I don't know if we forked out like 100s or like 80 or whatever in this offseason. We all Dortmund was going to be like, either way, we're going to get our money and we're going to get more. So we'll hang on to this. So I feel like the more you watch this kid, that whole fantasy about Keita's one leg and some money in return for Bellingham thing in January is more and more of a dream. Because if you're Dortmund, why the hell would you even do that?
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere in January now, especially with the form that he's in both in the league and in the Champions League. They are going to just let him go, just go nuts, keep having his price go up. I think 120 is the floor for it right now. I don't think that's eventually what he's going to go for, and I don't think it's going to go down.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things. Daz is with us this morning. Good morning, Daz. He says, time to start the Bellingham GoFundMe. I think it's going to be one of those deals where, Dortmund is going to be like 120, and there's going to be 5 guys at the door, and they're going to be like, oh, wait, shit. Okay, then 140. And then, like eliminate some of the guys knocking on the door. But it's going to be, it's going to be tough. I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, this is a good hope because it says we could really do with Southgate being a football genius and not play Jude in the World Cup. I think, hey, I wouldn't put it past them, unfortunately, at this pace. But I think, yeah, it's going to be really, really tough to get. The only thing we can do now maybe is go against one of the freaking young guys that they have loaded up in their midfield at Real. If Real is the team that's going to go after him, I'd be more afraid of like somebody like United or somebody spending gazillion dollars. since they're not playing Casemiro. And then, like just, go after him that way. But that's will be my bigger fear, I guess. If he goes to Real, maybe we can go to Canavinga or something like that. I mean, you got to figure Real has done a good job of reloading that aging midfield. Obviously you had like Cross, you pack Casemiro, you get a bunch of money for him, mind you, to send him to United so he can sit next to Ronaldo and reminisce of the old Madrid days as like United is getting pummeled on the field. And then, they'll be able to replace like Kroos and stuff like that with all these young guys. So it's been something. Yeah, if Dortmund go out of the Champions League, then we might have a chance, Kazi says. I don't think there is that
I don't
chance.
think they're not getting out of that group with Sevilla and Copenhagen there to beat on.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically more than
City,
halfway there because they're going to still play Copenhagen. I mean, they already have 6 points. Sevilla has. I mean, here's the thing. Your threats are Sevilla, who's in shambles, and Copenhagen, who is, well, Copenhagen. No offense to our Copenhagen fans watching right now. But
sorry, Danish faithful.
Oh man, so like I say, I don't know about what did you make of Chelsea, by the way, before we kind of like move on? I mean, with this Fofana injury will really affect them because Koulibaly has been on and off as well. But what do you make of? Do you see any big changes with Potter coming, or is basically just a different guy on the sideline and they don't have Tuchel's annoying face yelling at him?
I think it's just that. I think it's something where they have a guy that will come in and just let them play. It's very simple what Potter asks in terms of a system. And if you just do it, he's not going to give you any guff about it. So he's just putting the players in, asking simple things of them to do. And when they do it, he just goes, all right.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Sounds good.
It's simple. There's no drama. There's no just constant bickering and trying to just make something out of nothing. He's a guy and that's why a lot of people were looking at him for the England job for a while, because England national team always just has this underbelly of just tabloid nonsense going on about it. And we've fed into it with the whole Trent thing, but there's something just so easy about a guy that just goes, okay, you're playing good and you do this thing, go do that thing. And then when I ask you to do this thing and you do it, we're fine. And I'm just going to go sit over here and just hang out. And
you guys do your thing.
We'll win because we have really good players and stuff like that.
I mean, they spend a ton of money, and I mean, Kazi's in rare form this morning, man. But unless they hired Harry Potter, they're going to need the Magic One to be in the top 4. I mean, I think Chelsea has so much quality, and they spend so much money. I just don't know if the money was spent well. I mean, I don't know why. I know he hasn't been reliable, for example, in terms of like health, but I know why they spent so much money on Cucurella, and when you already had Chilwell. But they have so much depth in a lot of positions there. They just need probably, I don't know if Aubameyang, obviously with his age and stuff, is only like a temporary stop there, but they probably have to figure out their attack more than anything else. That's what needed figuring out. I think they are pretty solid rest of the field and they have enough depth. But I mean, I had picked them to be top 4 because honestly, I did not see this rebirth of Arsenal as much before the season. We expected them to be good, but I still felt it would be City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and I believe I had Tottenham at the end, like squeaking into the top 4. But that's before the season started, and the first 8 weeks have been shocker. One last thing to get to, we talked about a little bit yesterday. Now it's official, and Alonso is at Leverkusen. Shocked with that because we were shocked with the rumor yesterday.
Yeah, because our big thing was, can we at least get the first guy out before we're trying to get the new guy in? And they took care of that very shortly after we got
on.
By
the time we were off air, the guy was gone.
We're sitting there like, man, can we just give Gerard the chance to, I don't know, like defend himself, and then just I think it was probably like 20, 30 minutes after we signed off yesterday. Guy was out on the street. He was getting installed in his.
Yeah, I mean it's a risky move. I just don't get it, but more power to them. I just feel like it's like a really odd move and an option. Like I say, if it was like Real Sociedad or something like that, okay, you're bringing an ex-player. I mean, it's a pretty darn good starting point for Alonso, first of all, I think, in that sense. And it's a solid, they have some pieces there. Let's see what he does with them. And yeah, this is a good way to sign off, probably. He says the only way to spend that much on the left back with the Cindy Crawford haircut. Oh, man, somebody is around my age when they bring the Cindy Crawfords, because I can't. This might be the ever first time we have mentioned Cindy's name in an American Scouser podcast over all these years. But yeah, that's a great way to end it, and a very huge insult to Cindy Crawford. She was something back in the day, unless she has changed her hair now, and that's how she looks like Cucurella, or Cucurella looks like her. I don't know which one it is, but now, as soon as we get off air, I'm gonna have to Google Cindy Crawford and see where the hell she's at, because I have not heard of Cindy in ages. So thanks, Kazi, for that. So now I can get to work even after the podcast. Well, Trevor, thanks a lot as always, man. I'll see you tomorrow morning. We'll kind of take a look at the weekend and see if it's going to be 4-2-3-1 or 4-6 or 4-4-2 or whatever the hell, and then we'll go from there. Take a look at the headlines. There's a bunch of games today, obviously, with the Europa. Fenerbahce is going to be in action, so I'll be watching that. So that should be a good torture session for me. That will take care of me today. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining, and Kazi, thanks again for bringing Cindy up. So off to Google I go. Take care, everybody.